everyone, welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting and our weekly look back at the hot comics from 6 months ago. This week we're looking back at the hot comics from September 16th, 2022, and recording this on March 17th, 2023. As always, I give those dates so you know when this information is actually relevant and important, because the market is always moving and changing, so these numbers may change just as rapidly as we will see they've changed in the last 6 months. As always, we're looking back at the CBSI Hot Top 10 and the Comic Tom Key Collector Hottest Trending Comics of the Week. Been doing this for about 4 years, a little over 4 years, and using these two lists to see what books were hot and how they've performed in the 6 months since. Whether it was because they were option news, whether it was because it was just a hot cover just released, whether there was MCU rumors. What was going on that made these books hot and how they responded in the market in the following 6 months, so we all make a little better decisions about which books we chase in the moment and which books we take a little patience with and come back later. So without further ado, we got 16 books to talk about this week, so let's see what we can learn this week. First up, we have Ghost Rider number 28. This is the first appearance of the Midnight Suns, also the first appearance of Lilith, I believe. This book has been on and off the list a ton of times, with just mostly speculation about MCU and the Midnight Suns being used at some point in the future in the MCU is why people have been chasing this. So this first team appearance is something that people have been after. But this time it hit the list because of, at D23, we got more information about the Midnight Suns game that was coming out. Caused raw copies to jump up to $25, 9.8 hit $150. Both of these numbers are still well down from peaks on previous speculation about the Midnight Suns being used in the MCU. Now it's a $5 to $25 book, 9.8, 75 to 100. So down in a trap, even from these lower prices, this lower peak than what we'd had previously. We will see if we ever get kind of a team up of Ghost Rider and Blade and that kind of stuff. I could see it happening. But yeah, this book is once again back in super affordable range. Next, we're going to start moving into covers. First up, we have Bone Orchard Mythos, 10,000 Black Feathers, number 1 from last year. This is the Del Mundo 1 in 100. There was also a little bit of buzz about the series. This was the only ratio I think you could get. Not the only ratio, but this was only going for ratio back then. It was only $100 for raw copies, which generally is not a good sign for a ratio book, but orders were probably pretty low on this, and this book has disappeared from eBay. With this, this cover cannot be found. There were no sales in the last 3 months, no listings. Now I say this, and one might get listed or whatever, but there have been no sales or no listings. So hard to say really what's going on with this book, but my guess is it's probably been worth it. If one popped up now, if there's any interest in the series, people would probably pay the 100 plus just because it's hard to find at this point. It's one of those that seems to be becoming a ghost a bit. Next, we are going to have Amazing Fantasy 1000, the Humberto Ramos D23, the Mickey Mouse variant. To know the difference in these, the one where Mickey has the cake is considered the Mickey Mouse variant. The one where Spidey has the cake, which we'll see next, is the one considered the Spider-Man variant. This is the Mickey Mouse variant. Back then, raw copies were going for $330. Now a raw copy will cost you $200, 9.8, $450 to $475 right now. So these are still huge prices for a book that was just given away at an event in the last year. To still be sustaining these kind of prices is huge. They're just not nearly the prices they were at back then. So it still becomes a trap even at $200 for this cover and this book. So yeah, still a very valuable book, just not the crazy prices we got when it was first hitting the market. Next, we have Amazing Fantasy 1000, the Humberto Ramos Spider-Man variant. So yes, like I said, the opposite number. It was also $325, so we're in that little over $300 range. This one's actually, raw copies are a little bit cheaper, $135, $150. 9.8 though, right in that $475 range, or the one 9.8 sale I should say was $475. Now there's a bunch of signed versions of both of these books that are out there that are going for a little bit more, but I stuck with just the blue label. But yeah, in doing this breakdown. But yeah, both of these ended up turning into traps. The second one almost borderline dumpster fire. But yeah, just because, but still going for really big numbers, just not the numbers when we first saw it. Next, we have Tron, 40th anniversary #1, also a D23 exclusive. Back then, this exclusive was doing $60 to $75, so dirt cheap compared to those Disney Spider-Man Amazing Fantasies. But yeah, now it's a $40 to $50 book, 9.8, 200. Still a trap, just barely into the trap stat category as opposed to the I'll Be Back, but definitely a bit of a trap. So another D23 variant that has dropped well back. With that, we're going to move into a little bit of DC movie news before we jump into MCU stuff, which all came out of D23. So our last non-MCU related book is Blue Beetle #1, first appearance of Conrad Carpax, the Indestructible Man. Back then, raw copies jumped up to 15, 9.8, 250. Now it's still a $10 to $20 book, 9.8, 180. So pretty steady on the raw side, which is the vast majority of sales. 9.8 is backed up a little bit, but this is all about people suspecting this character will be part of the Blue Beetle movie, which, as of right now, is still coming. It's one of the movies that has not been canceled by James Gunn when he took over the whole DC stuff. So we will see if this matters. I would probably wait till about 6 to 8 months after the movie before I would go after such a book because, yeah, then it should be probably dirt cheap. But it's been steady so far. Next, we have a favorite to spec on, even though there's a million copies of this thing, literally. Darkhawk #1, first appearance of Darkhawk. Back then, raw copies were up to 25, 9.8, 2 to 250. Basically, rumors based on the fact that Gunn had indicated that he almost used Darkhawk in Guardians 2. So people were like, oh, maybe he'll be in 3. There's been nothing to confirm this in any way, shape, or form. So now this book is back down to its more typical $10 to $20 range, 9.8, 150 to 200. So down, and I'll be back on this one. It kind of just returned to where this book tends to sit longer term. But yeah, so that's where we're at on Darkhawk. People keep wanting to make that happen. So far, it has not. Next, we have Amazing Spider-Man #503, the first appearance of Tess Black, the daughter of Loki. This was pure speculation on this character maybe showing up in Loki season 2. Back then, raw copies were going for average all of $3, and 9.8 hit all of 50. And I said, whatever, worth it, I guess. But this book is actually up. These sales now are 5 to 20, with most of the sales 10 to 15-ish. Yeah, so this is technically kind of an up, straight cash book compared to even what it was. People have decided this is a key, and so they're paying the bottom of the barrel key prices, but are still way up from what the dollar bin book that it was before. Next, we have Secret Invasion #1. This is the first title, Secret Invasion comic, which is is the title of the series that's coming out soon. The Secret Invasion series, which is coming to Disney Plus. Back then, raw copies were going for 30, 9.8 going for 175. Now it's a $5 to $20 book. 9.8 going for 1 to 150. And this was really based on, there was a trailer, I guess, at D23. Not sure. I wasn't sure about what to say about this when I called it, and I'll be back because didn't know the timing, but I think we're still a ways out from the show. So yeah, raw copies 5 to 20, 100 to 150 on a 9.8. So another trap compared to those $30 and $175 prices from before. Next, we have Man-Thing #1, the first solo of Man-Thing. And this had to do with trailer that was played at D23. And I think it was actually released wider for the Werewolf by Night special. That has come and gone. But back then, it caused raw copies to jump up to $80. 9.6 hit 1,000. And now raw copies are still basically in that same range, 50 to 125. So I would still consider that kind of an average of 80, depending on your condition, obviously. 9.6 are backed up, 620 on a 9.6 sale, but that's one sale to go off of. So overall, I would probably call this just steady and worth it based on the raw sales, which are the vast majority of sales. So Next, we have Marvel Presents #1, the first appearance of Ulysses Bloodstone, Elsa's dad. Also, due to the Werewolf by Night trailer, we now know how little the role was he really played in the show. But raw copies back then were 65, 9.8, 900 to 1,000. Now raw copies are 5 to 15. Literally, that's right in that range. Only one 9.8 sale, which was still 700, but that raw average of 65 down to an average of 10, that's a dumpster fire. Really wasn't important to the series. Definitely not coming back to the MCU, probably, other than, well, as he was in this show. And yeah, so definitely the interest in this book has definitely waned a ton. Next, we have Incredible Hulk #256, the first appearance of Sabra. This is a character speculated on for Captain America 4. I think maybe it was announced that she was going to be a part of Captain America 4. I forget now. And yeah, raw copies for this book, we're going for a really wide range, obviously based on condition, but a super wide range, 20 to 120, 9.8 hit 900. Now it's a $5 to $75 book, so still pretty good value on the, for higher grade copies, but still way down. Most of the sales are really around $20 on this book. 5 to 20 is more likely on this one. 9.8, 275 to 400. Yeah, this is a dumpster fire also. Not sure if this character will really matter that much or will connect, but people chased it then, and yeah, it doesn't appear to be. It's already backed way, way up, and I'm not sure it'll really bounce back. Next, Truth, Red, White, and Black, the first appearance of Isaiah Bradley. Also, with news that he was going to make a reappearance in Captain America 4. Back then, raw copies were 20 to 40, 9.82 to 250, which were still well down from the heights of when Falcon and the Winter Soldier came out, but well up from how far it had actually crashed. Well, it's crashed back down to there. Now it's a $5 to $25 book again, 9.8, $100, another dumpster fire. Yeah, this book, when there's news, people kind of jump on it, and then they rapidly forget, and rapidly this book drops back, and it's done this multiple times now. Not a book I would invest in, really. Although, if you want to buy it now and then be prepared to move it when Captain America 4 comes out, maybe. But I will say the movie peaks and stuff have not been as high as they've been in the past. So you definitely want to get a good deal on this if you're going to try that. Next, we have Iron Man #219, first appearance of Ghost. Basically, this is based on the news that Ghost was going to be a part of the Thunderbolts movie. Raw copies 15 to 40, 9.8, 700. Obviously, we'd already gotten Ghost back in Ant-Man the Wasp. Now, raw copies are 10 to 40, 9.8, 400. Just one sale, though. So, kind of an I'll be back. You can say steady I'll be back on the raw side for sure. In that same range, although most of the sales, again, on the lower end of that range. The 9.8 actually is a bit of a trap, but it's one sale. Hard to make a judge off of that. Two more books to go this week. First, we have Avengers #43, the first appearance of Red Guardian, also going to be a part of the Thunderbolts movie. 50 to 150 for raw copies, 8.0, 360 to 400. Now 20 to 100 for raw copies, 8.0, 300. So down, and I'll be back on this one. Yeah, this book also still well down, even from the peak last fall of where it was at during the Black Widow run up to the Black Widow movie. So another book that's now it's probably a better time to get by if you actually just want the book, for sure. I don't know that it'll ever peak back to Black Widow prices, at least in the near future, I should say. Next, we have Captain America #354, first appearance of John Walker as U.S. Agent. Back then, raw copies were 20 to 70, again related to Thunderbolts movie. Now they're 5 to 40. 9.8 still go 350, which is pretty good, but down in an I'll be back for sure. Down in a trap, you could argue, but most of the sales were more on the upper end of that raw range, that 5 to 40 range, and the kind of 20 plus range, but still would call this an I'll be back and a down for sure. So that is this week's list. Just 16 books to talk about. Almost all of them related to D23 announcements, with just 1, 2, 3 books that really weren't directly related to D23. Maybe 4 books that weren't related to D23. I want to thank you guys for watching, and we will Catch you next time.